Hey everybody, it's Rick Trummer again from Rick Trummer Consulting and Training, and this is going to be video 2 on the bridge. If you recall yesterday's conversation, we had applied all of the different color palettes onto the different images that we had inside the bridge. And now what we're going to do is we're going to actually use a tool that's inside the bridge feature. It's a real cool tool that you can use. A couple things. One is you can go into the batch rename. So if you did want to rename these files, let's say the session plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or whatever, you can do that through this. But if you go down in the tool menu, down to Photoshop, you can go right over to the image processor. So we applied the color onto all of those different items, all those different images inside there. And now we're going to use the image processor to actually process the files and get them all set up the way that we want to. So the great thing about the image processor is that you can also run actions from it. So if you are putting on maybe you run portraiture, do a pre-touch on all of your images that go through, you can run it right here from the actual palette. So let's just say, for example, I go down to my portraiture set and I'm running the Hanson daughter portrait action that I actually made for that. I've also got my copyright information here, which is going to be important, and we'll talk more about embedding that in future lessons. I'm going to save it to a certain location, so I can put it in the same location. If I do put it in the same location, it'll actually create a separate folder for each of the type of files that I'm actually saving. So if I'm saving JPEGs, I can put in the quality. I can save it to our sRGB, which we talked about before. If you want to put these on the internet, you can resave them to a different size. So you can put in here an exact size that you want them to be. You could also save PSDs. So let's say you were doing an action down here that you wanted to have a certain bunch of layers being put on there and named. You could do that and save them as PSDs. That way when you open up the file, it will be all ready to go. It's a huge time saver when you're doing production. If you do the same 2 or 3 things every time you open up a file, let's say you copy a file, create a retouch layer, and then you also have an adjustment layer on there. That takes, let's say, a minute to get all that together, somewhere between 30 seconds and a minute. You can now do that in the image processor by running an action, and then what it'll do is when you open up the file from the PSD folder, it'll actually have all that done for you. So if you think about it in a math sense, let's say it takes you on the low end 30 seconds to do that inside Photoshop every time you open up a file, and you run, let's say, 10,000 files a year. You're saving 5,000 minutes every year. So you can kind of see where time saving by going through the image processor is really, really effective. The other thing you can do is save a TIFF. So if you checked all 3 of these, it would literally save a folder inside the area inside the same location folder that you have it at, and you'd actually have a JPEG folder, a PSD folder, and a TIFF folder. We're going to run an action set. We'll run the portraiture set that I have on this, although these are just some mannequin shots that I had. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say after I process, we're going to make sure to open up in a bridge. So everything is set here. All I need to do is hit the run button. And what Photoshop's going to do is actually process all the images through. It'll open up each individual image. It'll put the action on them. And then it's going to run it through the mechanism that we have and go to the next one. So you can see it's saved in. It brings up portraiture. It goes through the actual filter series. And then it saves it. And so this is where you go and take a break, or you get on a jump on another computer and you start working on something else. It's processing all of the color and everything about it kind of through this particular feature. So it's very, very quick and easy. I'm going to actually pause the video here while it finishes the rest of the the actions that we put on there, and we're going to come back right after it's finished and show you the complete result. All right, we're back after the actual processing, and as promised, I've gone in and you can see that there is a JPEG folder in the folder that we saved it to. And if you look at them, they're all the process folders. So it actually went through, it ran the action that we wanted to on all of the files, and it saved it. This was all while we were on another computer doing multitasking inside the system. So again, if you were a PSD person that wanted a file with a bunch of layers on it, all you would have to do is recreate a new action to run multi-layers, and it would go ahead and save that inside the PSD folder. It's really a great tool to be using inside the bridge. Unfortunately, the Lightroom version does not have the image processor in it. So it's one of those things that can be run through the bridge, but it can't be run through Lightroom. If you do run it through Lightroom, you'd have to make a special droplet to be able to run it through that. So you'd have to be able to create a droplet and then run that particular action through there and go through. So this is a really effective tool to run through the bridge. Well, again, I hope you enjoyed this last movie on the bridge. Tomorrow we're going to be looking at how to import the photos in the first place and kind of get you started with that. So I'm kind of putting the first video last and the last video first. So I hope that you've been enjoying this series that I've put together for you. Next week, remember, after this week, next week we're going to be discussing the Lightroom and processing through on Lightroom. Again, I'm Rick Trummer from Rick Trummer Consulting and Training. If you do want to have more videos, longer videos that are much longer than the ones we're putting here, just go into the products area and the 99-cent video area, and you can get a lot of these different videos that are inside there that are 20-30 minutes long. That you'll be able to learn a lot more. Also, we've got our basic and our professional photography training classes that are starting in December and January. So looking forward to hearing from all of you. I hope you're all having a wonderful holiday season, and I look forward to continuing my series on Rick Trummer Consulting and Training. Thanks again.